Hello there. My name is Samantha Herberman, and I am coming to you from Warner Chappelle Children's Support Solutions with a wonderful physiotherapist this afternoon, Jennifer Halfin, who will be discussing the importance of tummy time. I'm not going to get into our housekeeping tips as they're not needed at this point, but I do want to present you with a special offer from Children's Support Solutions. Mention that you participated in our webinar this afternoon when you book an appointment with Children's Support Solutions between now and March 31st, and we will waive our administration fee. We encourage you to visit our website at www.childrenssupportsolutions.com or call us at 1-866-653-2397. Before we get to our presentation this afternoon, a little about Warner Chappelle. We help 500,000 people each year through therapy, education, and coaching. Our Children's Support Solutions team helps children reach their potential through interprofessional and family-centered approach. We have locations across Ontario, Quebec, as well as in British Columbia, and online, and offer assessments and treatment in psychology, speech-language pathology, behavior therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and special education. Now I'm very excited to turn it over to Jen Halfin to talk a little bit about her background and the importance of tummy time. Over to you.
Thank you, Samantha. As you mentioned, my name is Jennifer Halfin. I am a registered physiotherapist in Ontario. I graduated from McGill University in 2008 with a Bachelor's of Science in Anatomy and Cell Biology, as well as with a Master's of Physiotherapy in 2010. Ever since then, I have been working in the field of pediatrics. And I've been drawn to motor development and explored many continuing education courses to further my understanding of gross motor development and milestones. That being said, I think my practice changed most when I became a parent myself. I have two young boys. Josh is 3.5 and Ryan is 1.5. They are featured throughout this presentation as my demo babies, as well as some gracious family and friends. And it really truly shifted my balance and my perspective in terms of how to balance being a mom and being a therapist and working towards developing infant milestones. So today I'm here to talk to you about what is tummy time and how to make it a part of your baby's growth and development, and how to make it easier for you and your baby. One of the questions that I often get asked about tummy time is, what is tummy time? Why do we have a name for it specifically? And basically it's because babies are spending a lot of time on their backs today, between the time that they're sleeping, the time that they're in their car seats, their swings. Babies aren't getting enough floor time. So we gave a name to it and we called it tummy time. But why is it so important and why does it need to be discussed? There are ramifications of not doing tummy time that we'll get into a little bit further. But as a result of all this positioning, tummy time can be challenging, and so we'll also review some exercises today that will help make that easier. So, as I mentioned, babies are on their backs to sleep. In 1992, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended that infants should be placed on their backs for sleeping. Now, this has drastically reduced the incidences of sudden infant death syndrome, which obviously is our priority. But as a result, babies are more comfortable on their backs, and as well, parents are nervous to sometimes put babies on their tummies, so they're not used to being in this position. Again, so why is tummy time hard for some babies? As I previously mentioned, babies are not used to it, and parents may be hesitant to put their babies on their stomachs. But as well, something that you and I might not tend to recognize is that gravity is heavy. Gravity is hard. You and I work around in our day-to-day life, and we don't realize how heavy it is to work to extend against gravity, but when a baby is born, this is something that's very difficult for them and takes a lot of work. So why do we need to do it? If it's hard, why do we need to make babies work? Well, tummy time contributes to your baby's growth and development through a variety of ways. Primarily, it's the first building blocks of neck and back strength. When your baby is on their tummy, they're going to try and lift their head to see the world around them. This is going to be tough, but those little movements that you might not perceive as work, but those little neck extensions can go a long way. By doing this, they're helping to develop their neck muscles, their back muscles, as well as their head control. Feeding down from this, the second thing that tummy time helps to work on is upper body strength. That initial position when a baby is on their tummy and they've got their forearms pressed against the ground, this is the first beginnings of putting weight into their arms, which helps develop their shoulder capsules, their hand strength, and helps to build their chest strength as well. with that upper body strength, we also start to get the hands pressing into the ground. Now, pressure through the hands, this is a precursor for the development of fine motor skills, like grasping a pencil, printing, and holding scissors. These all stem from the first bits of tummy time where babies first start to put pressure through their hands. Another great thing that tummy time helps to work on is sensory processing development. When babies are on their tummies, they receive all sorts of great tactile and proprioceptive sensory input, and their hands, their chunks, their legs. This gives really important information to babies' brains about where their bodies are in space. It helps them figure out how their body are moving, and they get to feel the ground beneath them. This is actually why I also recommend to a lot of my parents to do some tummy time just in a diaper. They've got lots more skin receptors, having contact with the ground or the surface they're doing tummy time on, because this helps to get more feedback into the body. Another great thing that tummy time does is because gravity is heavy and they're pressed against the ground, we get that deep sensory input to the front of the body. When baby has their head down, they're also getting that great sensory input to the cheeks and the mouth. Sometimes parents say, oh, they're just keeping their head down or they're just keeping their face down. But this is actually really great organizing information for the mouth and the cheeks that will help stimulate feeding and sucking, as well as encouraging those reflexes to emerge. Another great thing that tummy time works on is coordination. So when we're on our tummy, we're starting to look up at the world and look at all the toys around in front of us. We start to reach for those things. And so as your little one begins to reach for objects, this is the building block of left-right body coordination, as one side of the body will need to stabilize as the other side goes to reach for the toy. Your baby will learn how to use both sides of their body together, as well as focus on their hand-eye coordination as they reach for the object. And lastly, tummy time is the building block for all future milestones. It's where we start to develop all the things that we need for sitting, for crawling, for kneeling, for pulling to stand. And this is where all the muscles begin to build. I'll often find if I see a baby who doesn't crawl or is having trouble with those further motor milestones, I'll ask about tummy time, and often the feedback I get is that, they didn't really like it, and they never got used to the feeling, and they didn't like to do it, so we didn't do it as much, and they missed out on that great weight bearing through their hands and their knees, and therefore it's harder to develop the coordination that they need for crawling, for pulling to stand, and for those later milestones. So I promise you, if you push through with a little bit of tummy time every day, your baby will gradually get stronger and develop further milestones. Now, so what are the consequences of not doing tummy time? So these are all the wonderful things that it does, but if we don't do it, is it really that bad? And so as I've just mentioned before, it does have a precursor for future motor milestone development. So often we see that those milestones are delayed. And we often see that there are challenges with the more fine motor milestones, such as the benefits that we would get from putting weight through our hands, like the handwriting, the scissors, the grasp. As well, there's also a correlation to decreased core strength with kiddos who don't enjoy doing tummy time. It's harder for them to sit up in class later on and engage their core. But the biggest thing that we're seeing, the most immediate shift, is issues with head shape. Ever since the Back to Sleep campaign again, and with babies spending more time on their back, we're finding more babies have issues with their head shape. And what do I mean by this? There are 4 different types of head flattening that we're seeing with their head shape. So there's plagiocephaly, which is, as you can see in the first picture, it's flatness on one side of the back of the head. Brachycephaly, which is flatness across the back of the head. A combination of those two, brachycephaly with plagiocephaly, when there's flattening off to one side of the head and a little bit more across the back. And scaphocephaly, when the two sides are flat and head is much more narrow. Now, the reason why we're seeing this as a result of the Back to Sleep campaign and babies spending more time on their backs and not being as comfortable in tummy time is because the plates of the skull at this young age are very malleable and moldable. And so if a baby is spending time on the back of their head and they either prefer to look to one side or they prefer to look to both sides or just straight up at the ceiling, they're getting lots more pressure to the back of their head, which causes a shift in the plates of the skull. As you can see in the next picture, this is an example of a child with a left plagiocephaly. She did not enjoy tummy time. She enjoyed being on her back, and she would like to look to the left. And so as you can see, the left side of her head has a little bit more flattening as compared to the right side. So This is something that physiotherapy actually intervenes on. We do it with a combination of tummy time as well as stretching and repositioning to encourage her to look more to her right. This little girl is actually a thriving 3.5-year-old now who has a perfectly shaped head, but we really pushed a lot of tummy time for her so she would have a relief of that pressure from being on the back of her head. So with all that said, wonderful, tummy time is great. I go to put my baby on their tummy and they hate it. So how can we make it easier for you and your baby, and how can we make it so that you'll want to do it more? So the number one thing that I always say is introduce it early. Starting as soon as you come home from the hospital, those first chest-to-chest moments that you're having at home with your baby is the start of tummy time. From there, aim for 2 to 3 times a day for 3 to 5 minutes to start, and then you can progress to longer stretches of 10 to 15 minutes. A nice little reminder that I like to also put for my parents who crave those standards and guidelines is you want to increase by 10 minutes per month. So in the first month, doing up to 10 minutes of tummy time per day, spread out through the day. 2 months, 20 minutes, 3 months, 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. Now that being said, there is no such thing as too much tummy time. So you can do it as many times as you want throughout the day. One of the things that I learned as a mother was that there's often no time to do tummy time. I would sit there on my pedestal and say, do tummy time as often as you can. And then I had my first son and I said, when does this happen? They just ate, they just woke up, they need to fall asleep. So there are not many hours in a day when you actually can do tummy time, especially when you factor in all that sleeping and feeding and changing and burping and taking care of yourself. So whenever you have a few spare moments, such as right after a diaper change or right after a nap, try and fit it in. And always remember that just like when you go to the gym and work hard, this is hard work for your baby. So it's important to not scoop them up right away, even if they fuss. A lot of strength gets built up in those last few seconds, the same way you might not be happy running on the treadmill at the gym, but those last few seconds that you push through is often where most of that work gets built. So it's the same thing for our little ones, as difficult as it is. And I'm not saying to leave them there, crying indefinitely, but those few seconds of extra work will go a long way. So now I'm going to get into some exercises that you can do with your baby to help make tummy time easier overall. The first recommendation, and this is my son when he was probably 2 weeks old at the top there, so again, starting tummy time right off the bat, but it's to place a rolled up blanket or a small towel or prop underneath their chest. Coming back to what I mentioned in the beginning about gravity being very difficult for babies, anything that's going to create a little bit of an incline or a little bit of a prop to help encourage them keep their arms forwards in front of their chest, as well as decrease that force of gravity on them, will help make tummy time easier. Something that's really great and accessible if you have at home is a nursing pillow, to use that as their prop for them to lie on. My son here is lying on a tummy time mat that came with that little orange pillow. A lot of mats that are on the market these days come with what these are called tummy time pillows, and they're U-shaped, and you place them right underneath the armpits so that the forearms are encouraged to be forward, and the body's on this little bit of an incline so as to decrease the effect of gravity. Often I'll have parents ask me, what do I do? My child keeps swinging their arms back behind them, and a prop or a roll is a great way to encourage the arms to come in front so that they can get that weight bearing through the forearms and develop that nice shoulder strength. Again, coming back to this issue of gravity, so it's super heavy. Again, we got rid of a little bit of that incline with using the prop or the roll, but another great way to do that is to use your chest. So if you put your body on a 45-degree angle and then gradually start an incline and lie down, this is something that's really effective for helping babies decrease that gravity because they can be on a little bit of an incline. It's also a great position to be in for snuggles and for some rest time with your baby, but you're also working on that head and neck control as they start to lift their body and look up towards you. Another great position is that burping position. So again, you're holding them up close to your shoulder, and by having their head free, they're starting to work on a little bit of that head control, which will be very helpful for when they're flat on their tummy. Another way to decrease the effect of gravity is creating an incline surface for your baby to do tummy time on. So Here in the clinic, we've got some great wedges that we use that are at about 30 to 45 degrees, where we can go put baby on that angle. But another fun way that I recommend doing that at home is just by taking a couch cushion and placing it on the floor, and then propping up one side of it with some textbooks or some magazines, so that it ends up being a 45 or 30 to 45 degree incline, and then placing your baby on the couch cushion, obviously their head at the higher side, their feet towards the lower side, and then getting down to baby's level and playing, especially face-to-face, so that they have something great to look at. What's nice about this exercise is as you find your baby gets better at doing tummy time in this incline, you can gradually remove a textbook, remove a magazine, remove whatever props you may have to help decrease that incline to make it more difficult for that. Another fun way to do tummy time is the tummy carry. This one comes courtesy of a little friend of mine who graciously posed for the camera here. But this is a great social piece too for your baby. Carry them in your arms around the house. If you go from the kitchen to the living room, it's really nice and visually stimulating for your baby to see all that's around them. But also, again, you can play with the incline in your arms here as well. It's nice and settling for baby and soothing for those of you who have babies who may not enjoy tummy time. It's nice because they're nice and cozy and close to you. You get to have that incline, you get to talk, and they get to explore the world around them. So it's a really nice way to get a different visual field. And as well, what you can do here is you can start cradles in your arms the way you would normally carry the baby, but then gradually roll them forwards onto their tummy. So if they're not so comfortable having pressure on their tummy, you've got a baby who's got reflux, or you've got a baby who's not used to the feeling of pressure through their chest and tummy, you can kind of have their back a little bit more on you so that they're off-weighted a bit, and then gradually roll them towards your forearm so that they can work on getting more comfortable in that position. Another great way to use a proper incline to help tummy time easier is your legs. So what's fun about this is you can start higher up on your leg, which is obviously a thicker support, and gradually move them down towards your shin so that they have less support. You can also bend and extend your knee in this position to, again, give them a higher, more incline to a lower incline. What's fun here is you can rub your baby's back, pat their bottom, have a friend on the other side who's encouraging them. These are my two boys, and it's one of the ways that I did tummy time early on with my younger son, having my older son distract him. So it's really enjoyable for baby to be close to their caregiver, a nice cuddling position, but at the same time, getting a lot of that great work through the forearms and head and neck lifting. One of my favorite tummy time exercises is actually using a yoga ball. So a yoga ball or a therapy ball is a great place to do tummy time with your baby. Again, what this will allow is for you to play with the angle and decreasing gravity. Because if you place baby onto the ball, support them at their hips, which is what I'm doing here with this baby in this picture. I'm behind her and she's actually on a yoga ball, and I'm gently rocking forwards and back. By doing this, I'm playing with the angle, again, as I go back, decreasing gravity, allowing her to have that incline so it's easier for her to lift her head. She gets great support through her forearms onto that ball. But if you've got a bit of a fussy baby too, what you can do is gently roll them, rock them back and forth, but also bounce them and rock side to side for babies that crave that movement piece who are often best soothed by a walk around the house. Then this is a great way to incorporate tummy time as well, because you can have that nice tummy time position, but with that bit of a rock and a roll and a bounce that your baby craves in order to be soothed. Another great benefit about this is that you can work on the head control in all the different planes of movement. So you're getting the forwards, backwards plane of movement as you rock forwards and back, but you can also incorporate a little bit of lateral movement side to side, which helps work the neck side flexors as well as the core and trunk side flexors to help activate those muscles as well. So often I'll give this exercise for babies who don't like tummy time, but also I'll give it to babies who really need a lot of strengthening built up in their core, because it allows us to target, like as I said, all the different planes of movement. The one thing I would recommend though is obviously to hold on tight and stay close, because your baby is obviously on a yoga ball. So just as a word of caution, what you can also do is place a nice baby blanket around the ball to make it a little bit more comfy. A great position for this one is in front of the mirror. Often I find the babies love to roll forwards and back, looking at themselves in the mirror and seeing where their body is in space. Another fan favorite, as you can see here, is the baby airplane. So this one is for babies who are a little bit older, and I say that because they are going to be a bit further away from you. But as you can see in this picture, this baby is on her father's knees, and you're playing, again, all in the different planes of movement, but you're having your baby experience tummy time in a more fun and playful way. So you're going to lie down on your back, bend your knees, and then you place your baby on your shins. In this position, similar to the therapy ball, we can sway side to side, give a little bounce. I would recommend, as you can see here, the father has his hands close to the baby's trunk. I wouldn't recommend holding the hands. I would let those go free, but I would support the trunk just in case of any sudden movements, but watch for that nice neck extension, trunk extension, back extension as your baby plays in this position. And again, it's for babies who are a little bit older. And so one of the things that I find we often forget is that this is hard work. And as I mentioned before, the same way that you and I would go to the gym and work hard, this is the gym for babies. And you and I we talk to a friend while we're on the treadmill, we listen to our music, we watch a favorite TV show, and your baby deserves the same thing. This is their daily workout. So make sure to have a lot of distractions on hand. Most often when babies are starting tummy time, what they need is a black and white visual field. This contrast is what's most visually stimulating to them at this age. So toys that have a strong contrast, whether it be checks, spirals, triangles, as you can see my little guy is looking at here, that's visually stimulating. But as well, your face. Your face is you're their best motivation. They want to see your face, they want to interact with you. So it's a great chance for you to do tummy time as well with your baby and get your core strengthening in. Anything with lights, anything with sound. And don't forget that you can vary all of these, and you can vary all these exercises all together. So if baby gets bored of one toy, bring in something else. If baby gets bored of, the tummy time pillow, move to your knees. If they get bored of the ball, move to the pillow. It's important to make sure that they're varied and they're well entertained throughout this process in order to make it easy for them and in order to make them build on their strengths. So to summarize all of this all together, I think that take-home messages, and I'm always talking about to my parents about what are the take-home messages from our session today. And so I think what's important to note is starting tummy time early and often will make it easier for you and your baby. The more that they are exposed to it, the easier it will get. And this, again, the same thing like working out for us. So hard in the beginning, gets easier towards the end. It's always hardest to get started. And those first few times are always quite difficult, but the more you do it, the easier it will get. It's important for us to remember as parents and as therapists, but especially as parents, that tummy time is essential for the development of strength, stability, and all future motor milestones. So as much as it may be difficult at times, it's important for us to remember that we are promoting the development of our child's milestones. And to try various ways to make it easier for your baby. So when I say to do, 5 to 10 minutes of tummy time, it doesn't have to be 5 to 10 minutes of tummy time in the same position. If your baby's able to tolerate 30 seconds to a minute in one position and then fusses, great, pick them up, give them a break, source one of the other exercises and do something else. Try that one for 1 to 2 minutes, give them a break, go to something else. And by giving them those little breaks in between and soothing in between, you'll find that you'll be able to extend your tummy time session for a little bit longer. Now, all this being said, that if your baby continues to have a tough time with tummy time, a pediatric physiotherapist can definitely work with you and your baby to make it more enjoyable. It's great to have all these tips. Sometimes they're better best shown in person, and any pediatric physiotherapist can easily walk you through ways to make this easier for you and your baby, or investigate a little further to see if there's something else that might be making it difficult for them. So with that being said, here's a nice little tummy time shot of my 2 boys. And if anyone has any questions, they could feel free to reach out to Warner Chappell Children's Support Solutions. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Jen, and we look forward to hearing from you again